Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me is Douglas County Manager Larry Werner. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Lloyd. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you here, and we're going to look at the Board of County Commissioners meeting for June 2nd. And at that meeting, commissioners did hear from Nevada Department of Transportation, and the commissioners went on to accept the annual work program from NDOT. And what are some of the projects that are included in that work program?
The ones that have been identified by NDOT to be started or substantially started in 2017 are improvements to US 395 at Airport Road, Johnson Lane, and Stephanie Way to add some acceleration, deceleration lanes to try to make that a little safer. The other thing on 395 is down in the town of Gardnerville. They've got curbs, gutters, and sidewalks in a part of a program. And then to do some ADA, American with Disabilities Act improvements on Kings Lane. In addition to that, they've got some improvements to US Highway 50 up at the lake. They want to do a Nevada Gateway Monument where the US 50 crosses into Nevada. And then on State Route 759 Airport Road, they want to do some microsurfacing. And on State Route 756, which is a portion of Waterloo, they want to redo the base and some surface repairs. And then on Muller Lane, State Route 757, they want to do a seal coat. There are other myriad of small projects, but I think those are the main ones that would be beneficial to the county.
So that's a lot of projects. Yes.
It truly is,
yeah.
Yes, right.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to all those getting done. Also at the meeting, commissioners adopted an ordinance. This was to allow solar photovoltaic facilities as a primary land use in certain zoning districts. They also removed that temporary moratorium on solar facilities in the county. So now that the ordinance is in place, what are the limitations on a facility?
I think the basic elements is that what they've done is where it's allowed outright by zoning, which is not in agricultural lands the way it's set up, is to have a setback of a minimum of 2 miles to any lot adjacent to the subject property that's zoned residential or 2 miles from any residence. It's not allowed to be located on a hillside or ridgeline as defined by the county, and it can only be I think it requires a 40-acre parcel and all the parcels have to be contiguous. And if they're going to put it on multiple parcels, it has to be contiguous parcels. And then they must have technical studies as determined by staff, depending on the nature and the location of the request. If they're in certain areas that it may create problems with the view shed, then they may have to berm the area to kind of hide the facility. And then they need to apply for a special use permit. And in this case, the special use permit, the authority for granting the special use permit is going to be reserved to the Board of County Commissioners and not the Planning Commission.
Uh-huh.
So those are probably the main elements that went into the ordinance.
And I guess the primary one is that it won't be allowed on agricultural land.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the big one. Right.
Okay. So that ordinance is in place now, and that's the law of the land, as it were, right?
Yes.
Well, commissioners also approved the first reading of an ordinance reorganizing the East Fork Fire Protection District, and that would create the district's own board. Right now, the Board of County Commissioners is the board for East Fork, so this would be a change.
Correct. And there's two separate statutes that a fire district can be formed. Number one, allows the Board of County Commissioners to be the board, as you said, and the other statute that they're going to reorganize under allows then for elected a board after there's an initial term of directors appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. So that, I believe, is coming to the board in the second reading either, I can't remember if it's July 7th or the 21st, but there will be a second reading on that process as well. And Chief Carlini has stated that he will do a full analysis of what are the steps that need to be taken, what are the impacts, kind of give a rundown of the pros and cons of why this makes sense. But I think it's pretty well headed that direction, yes.
It also seemed like a couple of the commissioners don't want it to really happen. And one of them actually said, I like working with you. And of course, it is a pleasure working with the fire chief.
It is, yeah. I think it's the unknown. I really don't think there was strong objections. They were just kind of voicing, I guess, what's in the back of their mind, because they really have had a good relationship with the East Fork Fire Protection District, and I think they're kind of, they just really don't want to give that up. But it's gonna, if you talk to them about, is it really going to happen? The answer is probably yes. From all the right reasons, but.
Okay, so that's one we'll be seeing more on. Commissioners did hear a presentation on the operation of the Douglas County Community, I should say, and Senior Center, and I can say solar photovoltaic, but I can't say community. But give us an update. What's going on over there? I know it's all pretty much positive stuff.
Right. It's a busy facility, as anybody who wants to go there and partake can see. And I think Scott Morgan and his staff did a good job of going through a lot of statistics on that. And I kind of pared it down to a few things. One of them is financially, and the other is kind of like the door counts, and then like the meals served. But in looking at it, if you looking at the gymnasium as a separate budget unit, the estimated cost recovery on that was estimated to be 70%. In other words, we would generate 70% of our funds through fees and other charges. Turns out we're running about 102%, so our revenue generation is much higher than anticipated. On the community center itself, it was anticipated that there'd be about a 19% cost recovery, which is typical because it is a community thing and it's tax dollar supported. But we're actually running on a 43% cost recovery. So in reality, the users of those facilities are making a substantial contribution for paying for the cost of that. The door counts, it's running from 750 to 1,000 folks a day that come through the door. It's pretty significant. And then I took a look at the meals served in the dining room, and I went back and looked at the old senior center, and for the period just April through June, a very short period, the old senior center ran about 6,500 meals, and last year at the new center, they ran about 9,300 meals, and for that same period. And this year, we're running about 9,600 meals for the same period. So there's been a lot of usage of that facility, which I think speaks to the need it was filling. And it's operating more efficiently than anticipated, and people are excited about that. So
I guess the phrase, you build it and they will come, really applies to that, doesn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. So it's become a real focal point in our community.
Right.
That's for sure. Well, Commissioners heard another presentation too. This one was on the progress of the Tremendous Trails Economic Vitality Project.
Right, and I tried to paraphrase that. I think essentially what was happening is the two champions of that, which were Carla Lurie and Deborah Lang, that work with Lisa Granahan out of our office, would basically kind of give a status report and kind of try to tie in some of the economic advantages of having trails and outdoor activities. So they went through a series of kind of just statements and information that they've culled from other sources that talked about it. But with that, it was a status report. There was a lot of trails information presented, and I think it would probably make sense to refer people to the online information to look at it. Otherwise, I would just sit here and read it, and it's probably not a lot to do. But it was a very good report, and trying to tie in that trails are a necessity, that they're not just a kind of a fluff. A lot of people will pick a location based on trails and the outdoor sports they can get involved with. And I think that's the message that Carlo and Deborah were trying to get across.
Okay, very good. Commissioners also at the meeting approved a public utility easement at Topaz Ranch Estates, and this is to allow a $6 million upgrade for the TRE water system.
That's correct. Within the area, when the subdivisions were approved for the Topaz Ranch Estates, the open spaces that were left were pretty much the hillside areas, the rocky areas, and those were kind of left as open space with the county, and they're areas now that TRE needs to get across to loop their water lines and that sort of thing. So they're asking for easements across these open areas, and we're certainly happy to participate and provide that so they can actually improve their water system and do some things there.
Okay, very good. Commissioners also approved hiring some new staff. This is for the new adult daycare program that will be held at the Community and Senior Center.
Right, and this has kind of been an ongoing discussion for quite some time. I think Social Services through Scott Morgan and Karen Beckerbauer, I believe, started the process in April or February, March or April, somewhere in that time frame, to kind of bring the board up to speed on what's going on there with the adult daycare, which is something that has probably been on the horizon with the building of the senior center itself and the community center. As part of that, they did hire a director within the last couple of weeks, and to get that started, but to actually bring in people and actually start to utilize the program, they have to have a certain staff ratio. And in this case, we're looking at bringing on 3 employees. One would be a supervisor, then I have two staff members, but they also would be cross-training our existing staff so that we can utilize people if they're not needed at the adult daycare center. We can use them for other functions. And if the population gets a little bit bigger that we need more, then we'll have some cross-trained people too. So
I see.
The idea is try to utilize staff we have and then augment.
Do you have any idea when the adult daycare will start, the actual program?
I don't, Lloyd. I think we're still working through some things. We're negotiating with Carson City. They provide a lot of our social services. And I'm not sure if this fits within that program or whether it's independent, but we're going to sit down with Carson and kind of negotiate some contractual arrangements.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot more going on
lot
before
more
it
going
actually opens.
Right.
Also at the meeting on June 2nd, commissioners approved appointments to the ballot committee. That's to write the pros and cons of the gasoline indexing question on the November ballot.
Correct. Yeah, and that's been somewhat of a struggle, and we're glad to see that some citizens have stepped forward on both sides of the question, because it's I think it lends more credence to having the citizen write these than have staff write them or the district attorney's office. But we have Terry Pfaff and Bobby Thompson that are 2 of our citizens that are writing on the pro side of the indexing question, and then Daniel Ray and Jim Slade are on the committee to write on the con section of it. So they've got a quick turnaround to try to get their questions put together, and then they pass back and forth, and they have an opportunity to write a rebuttal, and then it all gets on the ballot somewhere. So it's
Okay.
all magic.
So we'll see that in November, of course. Well, that pretty much covers the meeting, and I was going to ask you, how about the next June meeting?
The next June meeting.
Yeah, up at Lake Tahoe. Do we have any previews there?
We do. The biggest item is based on what happened on the May 23rd meeting regarding the Douglas County Sewer Improvement District Number 1. There will be an item presented by the district attorney to introduce an ordinance to dissolve the Douglas County Sewer Improvement District. District Attorney Jackson will make a presentation, and then Carl Rushmeyer with our Public Works Department will also make a presentation on what would happen if the district were to dissolve, the cost impacts, how would we manage the district, or how would whoever would manage the district, I guess, until such time as we can sort it all out. That obviously will be the big one. And then we have several other more routine things on the consent agenda. We have some contractual items on there. We have some typical reporting items. I think the big ones are, excuse me, that we have 3 construction-related items that have to do, 2 of them having to do with the Sierra Country Estates. One of them is to approve a bid that we received for a portion of that construction, and then some construction engineering. And then another award of a contract to do some road reconstruction on Buckeye Road between Hayborn and Orchard. And then again, social services, who we were just talking about with the adult daycare, will bring forward 2 items. One is to appoint Dr. Holman as the county health officer. And the second item is to authorize the county manager to negotiate with Carson City on the transition between Carson City and Douglas County, as kind of we were talking before. So those are probably the major items that are coming up. By far, I think the most contentious one will be the Douglas County Sewer Improvement District item.
So if that were to go the dissolving route, would the county have to take it over for a time? Is that how the
That would be our recommendation at this stage, to give us time to sort out what is the best route ultimately to go to in the long term. There are 3 other districts up in the Lake Tahoe Basin. Those 3 collect sewage. The Douglas County Sewer Improvement District is the only one that actually treated the sewage, but there may be a combination of ways to work with the districts up there to try to maybe do some economies of scale, trying to make this thing work, but it's going to take us some time to kind of sort that out.
Sure. Okay. Well, Larry, I want to thank you for all the information you've shared here on the county manager's report. That's what we do. And Larry Werner, our county manager. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time right here on the County Manager's Report.